Recording. Alrighty, so here we go. We're going to be doing a little bit of story time. It's so good to see all of you. I hope you're having a great week. This is from Lyn Conway, who has worked for a long time with our company. She has had an incredible career, and some of what I'm going to be reading to you outlines a little bit of what she's done and how she got there. Not that what she's done is what and most people would ever aspire to, but her story really shows that when people get into a company, just to dip their toe in the water, you just like anything in life, you never know what's going to happen next and where it's going to take you. And so this is a part of that kind of a story. But more importantly, are the things that she learned along the way that I think, even though this book was written probably 20 years ago, are 100% pertinent today, and they really distill down some great basics. Okay, so I will just start reading. All right, so I'm going to do the introduction because I really liked it as well, and it lays it all out for those of you who don't know her in particular. I'm going to tell you the end of the story first. I've had a wonderful career in direct sales. Being involved in this profession has blessed my life and the life of my family for more than 30 years. It's been an amazing journey, and I've had so much fun and made so much money. I've made great friends, strong women who also took charge of their lives. My family and I traveled, remodeled our home, bought a boat, bought a bigger boat, paid for private college for our children. The list goes on and on. We did and do have it all. You also need to know that the journey has had some bumps in the road. For the first 15 years, I was an independent representative. I became a top seller and recruiter, and I led a very large team. I joined not two, but 3 companies that closed. Each time a company closed, my team looked to me to find a new home for them. When I got the notice about the 3rd company, I was emotionally exhausted and decided to get out of the direct sales industry. And I stayed out for about 6 months. I missed it. I missed the fun, the friendships, and the money. So when I was offered a position with a direct sales company as a trainer, I jumped at the opportunity. For 7 years, I worked with party plan companies on the corporate side in field development. For most of the time, I still worked from home. However, for 4 years, I commuted to an office and worked inside. It was at the end of that 4-year period that the name of this book came to me. I woke up before dawn one Friday morning. I had already put in a 60-hour week. I never minded working hard. What I minded was putting on makeup before the sun rose, dressing in a suit and heels, and going off to days filled with meetings. I thought, I missed the days when going to work meant grabbing a cup of coffee and going to my desk, the days when makeup was optional. And just a few months later, I decided to start my own company, A Fresh Perspective. More about that later. I was not a natural when I began my career in direct sales. I had no sales experience, and I was incredibly shy. My success has always been a result of persistence and consistent actions. My story could be any woman's story. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I've learned a lot of lessons. That's why my mission is to smooth the path for people who work in a home-based business, to help each entrepreneur achieve her personal vision of success. Whatever you want, whatever you dream of achieving, this profession can be the vehicle to help you create success on your own terms. If you are new to the industry or just thinking about joining a direct sales company and you're skeptical, please read on. I will share some of the lessons I've learned to help you on your journey. Excuse me. Let me take you back. I grew up during the 1950s and 60s in one of the, quote, new suburbs on the south side of Chicago. My dad had his own business. He installed air conditioning and heating systems, and my mom was a mom. She cooked and cleaned and was always there when I came home from school. I was a good student. My parents expected me to go to college. They grew up during the Great Depression and didn't have the opportunity to get a higher education. They wanted that for me, and I wanted it for myself. I've always loved to learn. It was a time when career options for women were limited. Today, little girls were told from the time they were in preschool that they can do anything and be anything. When I was in school, we were encouraged to become a nurse, a secretary, or a school teacher. Well, my worst subject was typing, so I knew that becoming a secretary wasn't an option. I got sick at the sight of blood, so I ruled out nursing. By process of elimination, I said, I'll teach. Because I was very shy, I decided to teach really little children. I thought, at least I'll be taller than they are. I got my degree in primary education. In those days, girls were less concerned about the BS or the BA after their name. What we really wanted was a Mrs. before our name, the MRS degree. However, we needed something to do until we found the man. I found mine when I was a junior in college. We fell in love and got engaged, but my dad said he wouldn't pay for the wedding unless I graduated from college first. I got married 2 weeks after my college graduation. I started teaching second grade that fall and taught school for several years until I had our first child, Danny. When he was born, I decided and felt I was expected to stay home. It was the era of the Cleaver family. The Cleaver family was happy because June made them happy. That was my image of a successful woman, so I stayed home. Our second child, Katie, was born 3 years later, and by that time, we needed money and I needed a life. When Katie was 5 weeks old, I was invited to a home party, my first. It was a daytime party at a neighbor's home. We were told we could bring our children. The hostess hired a babysitter to play with the toddlers. I sat in the back of the room on the floor and nursed my baby. I watched the lady, Lenore, demonstrate various products. She wasn't very good, but people placed orders anyway. Not me. I didn't have any extra expendable income. After she totaled the orders, I overheard her tell the hostess that she had earned $50. Well, in 1975, $50 was a fortune. In fact, $50 was my grocery allowance for 2 weeks. When doing my weekly shopping, I walked around the grocery store with a plastic clicker on my wrist. As I put something in the cart, I clicked in the price of the item in quarters, dimes, and nickels. When I got to $25, I had to take something out if I wanted to put something else in. I loved to cook, and I hated being limited to $25 a week. So when she said $50, I thought, unlimited grocery budget, I can do that. I hung around until all the other guests left. Then I asked Lenore if I could help her carry her boxes out to her car. She was an older lady, probably about the age I am now, so she was grateful for the help. At curbside, I asked, does your company have any jobs available? She looked at me and said, book 6 parties. When you have them booked, call me and we'll issue you a kit. And she handed me a catalog with her got in her car and drove away. Who can blame her? Who can blame her? I sat in the back of the room with a newborn, never said a word, and didn't order anything. I'm sure she didn't have high hopes for me. One of my best qualities has always been my determination. My mom used to say to me, when you want something, you are bound and determined to get it. It was many years before I realized that she didn't mean that as a compliment. She was right about me. When I heard Lenore say that she had earned $50 in a couple of hours talking to adults, I was determined to have what she had. I now know that sheer determination is the reason that I was able to get started. I went home and got 6 bookings. It wasn't easy, but I got them. I called Lenore and she invited me to the mandatory training meeting. After that training, the company issued me a kit. I learned so many lessons during that first year in Party Plan. Eventually, I became one of Lenore's aces, but it wasn't easy, and that's the first lesson I want to share with you. And then she calls it, you can't tell by looking. So you can't tell by looking. Lenore didn't know I'd be successful. I didn't know I'd be successful. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I didn't even know I was starting a business. I thought I was asking for a job. I just knew that we needed some money and I wanted to stay home with our kids, but I also needed to get out and talk to adults once in a while. Through my career, I've recruited hundreds of people. Some that I thought would be terrific did nothing. Others that I didn't think would do much took off and experienced success. When I signed them up, I probably guessed right about half the time. I learned that I couldn't tell by looking. So the only way to find out if they had the drive and determination to be successful was to tell them what to do and see if they did it. Lenore knew that I couldn't have a Party Plan business without bookings, so she told me what I needed to do, and I responded. That's the second lesson, the power of expectations. The power of expectations. Expectations don't scare people away. In fact, people are calmer and more secure when they know what's expected of them. It's when they don't know what to do and nobody tells them that they're afraid. Lenore told me what she expected and waited to see what I would do. What I did was get on the phone and ask the 6 people I was sure would say yes, the 6 people who loved me the best. My mom, my sister, my best friend, you know, the people I'm talking about. When I asked those 6 people, every single one of them said no. Every single one. I was devastated, but determined. So I called all 6 back and said, someone is having parties. Who's inviting you to parties? I got, quote, referrals. Later, I would learn the importance of getting referrals. At the time, I was just acting on instinct. With sweaty palms, I called those referrals and got 6 bookings because that's what Lenore told me I had to do. Why didn't I quit after the first 6 no responses? Why did I brave the dreaded telephone? Well, that's the next lesson. You need a compelling why. So you need a compelling why. With a compelling why, you can move mountains. Without a compelling why, fear overcomes you. Fear leads to procrastination. And if you procrastinate long enough, what you were thinking about doing doesn't seem like such a good idea anymore. No one does anything they're afraid of until the why is bigger than the fear. I was really afraid and unsure, but I had a huge why. My compelling why was to stay home with Danny and Katie. Your why may be totally different. The lesson is to figure out what it is and make sure it's big enough to give you the motivation to take action. And then in a large box, she writes, no one does anything they're afraid of until the why is bigger than the fear. I find that most of the time, the reasons why fall into 5 major categories. I call them the 5 Ps. Most people get started for one or more of the Ps: product, profit, people, purpose, or personal growth. When I got started, I had 4 of the 5 Ps. My most important reasons were to stay home with my children, purpose, and to earn $50 a week, profit. I also wanted to get out and speak in full sentences to adults on a regular basis, people. Plus, I knew I would have to force myself to overcome my shyness, personal growth. The only P that I didn't have was the product P. Lenore could have been selling dog food. When I heard her say $50, I was in. So in other words, she didn't even care about what her product was, did she?
Nope.
She didn't even care. She just wanted to make the money and she was going to do it. So no matter how compelling your why is, you have to find people who need your services. This is the lesson I wish someone had told me before I started. So this is called Make a Big List, this heading. I was sure I knew who would book from me. I was wrong. But I learned a valuable lesson. I learned how important it is to have a big list of prospects. I encourage new people to write down everyone they know without prejudging, then assign each name on the list an A, B, or C. A people are the ones you are sure will say yes. B people are the ones you're not sure of, but you would think maybe. C people are the no way in the world. I only wrote them down because you told me to write down everyone. Start by asking the C people, the people who you think are least likely to say yes. It may sound crazy, but when you approach the people you think are least likely to book first, you'll get practice asking, and some will say yes because they will want what you have to offer. By the time you get to your A list, you won't be devastated if they say no. The goal is to book into a number of different groups so you get to people you don't know. Nobody is successful in the direct sales profession until they get past the friends and family bookings and get out to the public. In retrospect, it was probably a blessing that my A-list said no. It got me to the public faster and gave me the confidence that there were people out there who wanted what I had to offer. It also made me realize that the world didn't come to an end when someone said no. Eleanor Roosevelt says, do one thing every day that scares you. When I started doing parties, I was so bad. I got sick before everyone. I did the parties sitting on the floor because my knees were shaking. At the end of the party, I packed the display products into 2 large cardboard boxes. During those early days, I had a recurring nightmare. I dreamt that the guests put me into the kit box, put a large chain and padlock around the box, and left me at the curbside. I was often in tears when I got home from a party. My husband, Dan, would say, "What's the matter, honey?" I would say, "I was just awful." And he'd say, "Did you do anything right?" I would stop and I'd think, and I'd tell him a couple of things I did right, and then he would say, "Great, do that next time and add one more thing." Dan was actually my first coach. Despite that excellent advice, I was struggling. Lenore knew I was struggling. She probably knew I was close to quitting. She asked me the single most important question of my career. Because I answered that question, I stayed in the business. She said to me, "How many times a week can you walk out the door to do a party?" I said, I don't know. All I knew I wanted $50 a week. She said, you can't count on every party earning you $50. It doesn't work that way. She said, talk to your husband. Decide when you can walk out that door. That suggestion led to the next lesson, perhaps the most important lesson I ever learned. And this is called treat your business like a business. One of the most attractive features of a home based business is the hours you work are flexible. Flexible, not optional. Your business can fit perfectly into your life. You just have to decide when it fits, or you will flex yourself out of business. Dan and I talked. We decided that 3 times a week was good for us, Tuesday and Thursday nights and Sunday afternoon. Dan was in school on Tuesday and Thursday nights, and we had a good babysitter. So we decided that we would be out the same nights and home the same nights. That wouldn't be everyone's choice, but it worked for us. The next time Lenore and I talked, she asked if Dan and I had decided how many times a week I would work. When I told her 3 times, she said, when? I responded, Tuesday night, Thursday night, and Sunday afternoon. She said, are you booked every Tuesday night, Thursday night, Sunday afternoon? I just laughed, but I was also angry. I was hardly booked at all, and she knew it. She said, you were going to work every Tuesday night, Thursday night, and Sunday afternoon anyway. But how can I work if I'm not booked? I asked. She said, kiss your husband and the kids goodbye, lock yourself up with the telephone, and dial for dollars.
$1 for $1.
Mhm.
That's cute.
Mm-hmm. So that's what I did. If it was a time I had blocked off for work, I went to work. I kissed Dan and the kids just as if I was going to a party. I went upstairs to our bedroom, closed the door, sat on the edge of the bed. The telephone was on our nightstand, and dialed. I did that for about 3 weeks, and I filled my date book. I still have that first date book. It's my diary of the real beginning of my business. Every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday either has the name of a hostess or a list of names of people I contacted with notes, not interested, call later, referred me to so-and-so, yes, booked for, whatever. I remember one night in particular, I got booking after booking. It was so exciting. At 9 p.m., I called Lenore to tell her my good news. She heard the excitement in my voice and said, keep calling. I said, isn't it too late? I'll never forget her response. Lots of people are still up. When you're on a roll, don't quit. For years, if I had a postponement or a rearrangement in my schedule and I had a Tuesday or Thursday night or a Sunday afternoon free, I would still go upstairs and dial for dollars. I knew I could get a booking in the next week to 10 days by getting on the telephone. That single piece of advice saved me and saved my business. Now, I can almost hear you saying to yourself, and this is me, that's fine for you, but I break out in a sweat when I think about picking up the telephone. I know, I can relate. I was terribly phonophobic and I simply had to recover. So anyway, so she goes on to talk about the phone is your friend. She said, I stretched my comfort zone and get good on the phone if I was going to succeed. So I made a plan. I stuck a picture of my children next to the telephone. I bribed myself I could have chocolate if I spent a full 15 minutes on the phone. I decided when I would begin calling and set the timer on the stove. And then when the timer went off, I was like one of Pavlov's dogs. I picked up the phone. If it was a time I had blocked for a party, I didn't have a party booked, I spent the whole time on the telephone. The first call is the hardest. Once you're on the phone, every call gets easier, and it helps to have a script to start the conversation. People are nice, they want to help you, and you can get referrals if you ask for them. Okay, so then the next section talks about working your business, work when you want. This is really, such an important section. It's a constant reminder to me after 20 years in the industry. It's your business, work when you want. And then I'm just going to pick one more section after this. If you're going to have a successful party plan business, you have to learn to book parties, and the easiest place to book parties is at parties. You have a captive audience. The current hostess invited the guests and they came. They like you, they like your product. This shouldn't be hard, right? But I was a terrible booker in the beginning. I didn't get any bookings for my early parties. My problem was technique. I'd look at a guest and say, you don't want to have a party, do you? Well, then the answer to that is usually no. So I came home from almost every party frustrated. One night I was at a party and a guest said she would book. I was thrilled. That meant one less time I would have to get on the telephone. I opened my planner for her and she pointed to a Friday night. Dan and I had an agreement. I would work Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday afternoon, and Friday night would be date night. It said date night right in my planner, but she ignored that and said, yes, that night will work for me. I was desperate for bookings, so I said okay. As I drove home, I knew Dan would be upset. I was upset at myself. At my next party, I thought there has to be a better way to ask. So I took a piece of notebook paper and wrote open dates on the top. I drew a line down the middle of the page. On the left column, day and date. On the right column, name, phone number. Now, of course, it would read name, phone number, email. Down the left column, I wrote the next 5 dates I was available, and I put a star next to the dates that were within the next 10 days. On the bottom of the page, I wrote book on a star date and get an extra gift. At the last minute, I added a date and filled in my mom's name, Yolanda Stevens, in the right column. I didn't want to hand the guests a completely blank open date sheet. When it was time to take orders, instead of asking, "You don't want to have a party, do you?" I handed the guest my piece of paper and said, "These are the dates I'm available. If one of them looks good to you, just write your name and phone number next to the date." Then I went back to totaling her order. I got 3 bookings that night, 2 of them on star dates. I knew I was onto something. I also decided to put Yolanda Stevens on every fresh open date sheet that I started. A little superstitious? Maybe, but it was my security blanket. Your open date sheet works because you position yourself as a professional and offer a choice rather than asking a yes or no question. A choice also makes it easier for your guest. She doesn't have to think so hard. Okay. Tips on using the open date sheet. Put your open date sheet on a clipboard and attach a pencil. It's less intimidating than a pen. If someone says, "I don't have my calendar with me," say, "Don't worry, it's a pencil. The other end is an eraser. Just pencil in something that looks good and I'll call you tomorrow. If you need to change the date, no problem. At least this way you'll have reserved a spot on my calendar." It makes a spot on your calendar sound valuable, doesn't it? Tip number 2. Some people will ask to see your calendar. Don't open your planner. Your personal calendar is your business. Besides, if it looks like the vast wasteland, they will wonder why you aren't booked. And if it's really packed with activities, even if they're personal ones, they'll wonder if you have time for them. Instead, tape a small calendar for the next couple months to the back of the clipboard and show them the blank calendar. Tip number 3. Occasionally, someone will look at your open date sheet and say, "Are those the only dates you have available?" This is a code for, "I want a book, but I'm not sure about the date." Respond by asking, "What are you looking for that you don't see?" That's a nice way of asking it. What are you looking for that you don't see? They may want to book a date further out or on a different day of the week. If you're flexible, you can always choose to accommodate their request. And if you can't, you can offer to find her a representative who'll be able to do the party on the date she's requesting. Honestly, and that I've actually sponsored a couple of new team members that way. No, I can't do a party that week at all. Why don't you just join and you do the party? That's actually worked over the years at times. And tip number 4, take an extra moment to ask, "What's the best time and number to reach you?" Also ask, "Do you check your email regularly?" Make a note of her answers, because the more info you have when you sit down to do follow-up, the less frustrated you will be. Let's see. Okay. All right. The last thing that I will read to you is the miracle of the 1440. And this, I needed to hear this week also. Each of us is different in so many ways. Really, there's one way in which each and every one of us is the same. We all have exactly the same amount of time, and I call it the miracle of the 1440. You have 1440 minutes in your day. Every one of us does. Nobody is blessed with more. Nobody is cursed with less. Occasionally, you meet someone who seems to have 26 hours. You think, "She took 2 of mine. I know she did." In reality, she's simply making smarter choices about how she uses her time. 24 hours. I've heard time referred to as the new currency, and the analogy is very apt. Imagine that each day someone puts $1,440 in your bank account. To keep it, you have to spend it all by midnight. Anything that is left at the close of the day will be withdrawn. Would you figure out a way every day to spend $1,440? Of course you would. You'd make purchases, invest the money, or give it to charity. You wouldn't give it back. Your time is exactly the same. You've been given 1440 minutes and you have to spend it. Are you happy with how you choose to spend your time right now? Do you wish you had more time to build your business? Here's the real question you need to ask yourself. Is my business a priority to me? We make time for our priorities. Look back at the calendar. She has a calendar on a particular page that you can kind of fill out that shows your priorities. I asked you to fill in your current commitments, the priorities in your life that you cannot or will not change? Cannot or will not? Are there some things you'd like to change? Are there things you said yes to that you're no longer passionate about or never were passionate about? Would you like to build your business with some of that time? Why not? It's your 1440 after all. Lessons in taking control of your 1440. If you're spending time on something that is no longer a priority to you, give it up. That's hard to do. If you're in the middle of a commitment you made previously, like serving on a committee, finish your term and then say no to the commitment the next time. I don't know how many times I did that, but I'll tell you what, when my kids were here and I was on so many committees, it felt really good to finally get off of committees eventually and to relinquish leadership positions, relinquish all kinds of things that I was doing that I thought were good, but they were getting in the way of building something that I really cared about, and that was my business. And then if you're asked to participate in something that isn't a priority for you, refuse gracefully. This is one of the most important things that I've ever learned, is that just because somebody asks me and just because I could do it well doesn't mean that I should do it. I have to think very carefully about what would my reason be for actually taking that responsibility on. Is it pride? Is it because, oh, she asked me, I feel so special? Is it because I know I could do a good job? Those are not good enough reasons. It has to fit in with your overarching plan for what you really need to accomplish. I didn't know that for a long time. And now I say yes to very few things because I have my clear priorities. And so that's important. I learned the last lesson from one of those 26-hour women. I had been asked to chair a fundraising committee at my daughter's high school. I called Barbara to ask her to be on the committee, and she said, "Oh, I would love to be able to do that." I started to get excited, but then she continued, "However, I simply couldn't do it justice now, so I'm going to need to have you ask somebody else." Wow, I thought to myself, I wished I had said that when they asked me to be the chair of the committee. Barbara taught me to say no gracefully. It feels great to choose how you spend your time. It feels great to have a full calendar of bookings. You feel powerful and you open the door to wonderful rewards. Okay, well, where are we in time? Okay, that was a lot right there. I love the way she writes. She has so much warmth and wisdom to her. I really recommend getting the book. I think she still has, I don't think
I can't wait.
I know, you're really going to enjoy it. Yes. Yeah. Oh, Debbie's got hers. Yeah. And if you have it already, and if you can find it, Wendy, I really recommend that you get all the way through it. Like really read it and make some notes on sticky notes that that you think are really going to remind you each day of what you're trying to accomplish. My biggest takeaway is remembering that this is, if we want business income, we're going to treat this like a business. And even though I've been at my rank for so long, it's still easy to kind of, that resolve kind of dissolves into, well, I know what I'm doing. I don't have to work so hard. No, I still want to focus and focus and focus. And so this book has been a great reminder this past weekend to me of keeping the business a business. And not letting anything get in the way of my focus. So I have one other copy over on my shelf, and I'm going to give it away to Patty. Patty, do you have a copy of this book? You have a copy?
Actually, I think yes, I do have
Get
a
it
copy.
from
So
Liz?
give it to some.
Who here does not have a copy
Yes.
of this book? Amanda, Rena. All right, I'll make sure you both get a copy. How about that? Okay. Look at those. Those eyes just lit up. You're so cute. You are so cute. And there's Janice. Janice, do you have a copy of this book? All right. We're going to find a copy for Janice also. All right. Janice, Amanda, and Rena. Okay, girls.
I can send one to Janice. I've got 10 of them here.
Oh, do you have one for Janice? Okay, super.
Yeah, I'll take care of Janice.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I'll send Amanda and Rena.
What about Kathy?
I ordered one today.
You already ordered it.
Yeah.
I
didn't have one, but I was so excited about it when we talked about it. I ordered one.
That's so cute. I love it. That's great. All right, ladies. Well, tomorrow morning we're going to do a 10 a.m. Mojo in the Morning call Eastern time on the same Zoom, and we're going to be talking a lot about some of the things that a bunch of us are doing right now on social media with the business opportunity, how we are positioning this and the things that we're doing a little bit differently at our parties, both on Zoom and in real life, and do a little bit of quick brainstorming too, because I think this is really going to make a difference for us, and I'm really excited about it. So, any takeaways that you want to share from what we were just reading about?
I think it's good to just remind ourselves about, if you don't ask, the answer's no, automatically, and I've, now have to just stop worrying about, oh my God, I'm afraid it's going to be no, because it might be yes, and when you least expect it, that one person you thought, what? Oh, okay.
So true.
So it's a good reminder.
That's so good, Janice. That's so good. So smart.
Can I just share something real quick to
Uh-huh.
follow on that, Janice?
Yeah.
So I had somebody reach out to me to do a party, and basically, long story short, about an hour before her party, I realized I had never asked her about the business. I went over there to drop off some jewelry because we were doing a Zoom together and whatnot. I never asked. So I sent her an email or a private message on Zoom that was basically like, hey, have you thought about, this business and, making this your launch? And I just left it there and did the party. And halfway through the party, we're talking, yada, yada. And I was trying to bring up the starter kit image. So I opened my screen here on the other, because I have two screens. And there was a message from her at the bottom. Yes, I'd love to make this my launch. I was just like, okay, right? So mid-party, and I'm sitting there saying, so ladies, please don't order right now. We're going to get you a new link, but I asked, right? Even though it was the 11th hour, right? I asked the question and the answer was yes. I hadn't even considered that the answer would be yes. Right. So that's kind of a follow on to it.
Great. I love that.
I'm learning the same thing, Joe. I'm like booking parties that I forget to do the business part of it. And I am so bad about that. And I'm learning to ask about the business or presenting the business more so now than ever.
Wow. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Who else? All of you. Good. Takeaways?
All I can say is that it's so important to have your day set aside for when you want to do your parties. And when you're not able to do a party, if it's canceled or it's just not filled, that is your day to work. You must work. And that I just think it's awesome to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And, just like she had said, somebody wanted a book on a Friday when it wasn't a day for that. But sometimes you have to make those little adjustments to get that booking. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it all the time. Okay. I just think that's a great thing for us all to follow is find those days that are your days to work. Because those other days is our fun days of what we need to do, what we want to do. Great with our grandchildren, with our children, with whatever. Okay. Yeah. So, and that's what keeps us going. That is what keeps us going, is being able to do that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Great point.
Sure.
Thank you. Wendy?
I liked what she said about the mandatory training, because I find I've had it happen a few times where they're like, oh no, I've got this.
Right.
And then you call me with 19 questions when I offered you to do a training. So I like the idea of the mandatory training, not so much for the party, but for a new consultant.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like that. And I never thought of using that word, but this is mandatory because that's just the way it's got to be. Of course, dialing for dollars is a great way to look at it. I think where I'm stuck at the moment, I don't have a compelling why. So I think that's my thing. I don't have a why. I have so many irons in the fire at the moment, just with life, that the why sort of isn't there. So I think that's part of my being stagnant or whatever, stuck.
Well, I've always heard you say your why is money. I don't think I've ever heard any other why.
Well, yes, it is. And of course, we just keep spending it like it's water. You know, I mean,
Maybe that's why it changed.
we just keep spending it. No, it's like medical and whatever. And of course the pool, but that's because the pool had to be redone because it was rusting.
Right.
But no, no, that is a valid reason, yes. But I don't think that's the most important. I mean, it was when the kids were in school, because I was paying for 2 apartments and a mortgage and all that.
Yeah.
And now I have only one left for a year. So I think I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I have to figure out what that compelling why is
Yeah.
that's going to make me more focused and more
But you-
purpose
you-
in what I'm doing.
Right.
But I think the longer we're in this, I think our whys change. From when I first started till now, my whys changed 3 different times. From when I first started and why I wanted to do this to where I'm at now, it's altogether different. And it doesn't mean that I wouldn't say that.
Mm-hmm.
This is why, but this is now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I signed up because my husband's unemployed
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't have any money to buy food. And that's true. That's absolutely true. But now that we have found our way through everything, my why right now is altogether different. It's for all the things we wanted that we didn't get to have those 12 years. And now we're able to get it. God bless touchdown, you know? So it changes. It changes. And Wendy, money can always be a part of it, but it could be a different reason why you need that money.
Right.
You know what I mean? It could be for a car, it could be for furniture, it could be for education, it could be for a new pair of shoes and a purse. I don't know, but it'll always change.
Right. And then I liked making sure you ask for referrals, because I honestly never ask for referrals. I just don't even think to ask for referrals. But I like where she states, you know, who do you know that has parties? Who do you know that's a good hostess?
Right.
Like, whose parties do you go to? And ask. So
It's really smart.
I have been getting better. Of course, I can't do them right now except for online, but
Mm-hmm.
so,
I liked when she said, when Lenora told her, get 6 parties booked and give me a call. I thought that was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
well, and I told
Can you
Betsy that
imagine this?
before. I told you that numerous times, Betsy. Just tell me what to do, because if you tell me what to do, okay, I can do that. Otherwise,
Okay,
I
Wendy.
sit here and go,
Go book 6 parties and then call me.
and you'll do them for me because I can't go.
I mean,
Happily.
But stop and think about that for a moment. You know, we talked to our hostess about, would you like this to be your launch? Okay. But that person that walks up to you that has an interest, or that person out on the street that you're talking to, why not say, you know, get 4 parties booked. Let me catch up with you in a week and let's see where it's going to take us. You know, you have a launch and here's your launch and here's your 4 parties. Then you can always get more at that party. I don't know if that would work or not these days, but it's really something to think about. I never ever thought about that before. I mean, really, that kind of was like, whoa.
I have a friend who is a top leader at Pure Romance. We had lunch one day and I asked her the question, how do you, she has a very big team all over the country. And I asked her, how do you start new team member, brand new consultant? She said, I tell them to book 6 parties. And when they're, I do the first training, I tell them to book 6 parties and to call me when they're done. And she goes, and if I never hear from them again, I never hear from them again. And if they book them, they call me back and we do the next training. Yeah.
Oh my God.
But she's incredibly successful. She's very
That's
hard nosed,
amazing.
but she's incredibly successful. Yeah. She's got some real
Well,
good.
not any different than us doing with our host. You know, we're making that her launch. She still needs to get 3 or 4 parties,
Mhm.
you know, to keep it going. Hopefully we get it for her at her party, but if she doesn't,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
but she's already getting her kit. Okay. This
Mhm.
way they've got to get the parties and then take
Right.
it from there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought that was kind of amazing. I never
is
thought
kind
about it that way.
It is kind of amazing. And here's how, if Lyn were here right now, the way she would tie it in with what we do today, which is we say to people, let's come in and give it a try. Amanda, you and I were talking about this. Come in and give it a try, right? Well, what does a try mean? A try means 6 parties, probably 2 great ones, 2 mediocre ones, 2 that are just not, because that's just life, right? The hit or miss kind of thing. And that's really what a try is, to see if they're really going to like it. And so that was kind of what she started with, was 6 parties on the calendar so she could see if she was even going to like it at all. And I think that's important when we're helping a new team member get started, is that sense of give it a try. Bye, Patty. Thanks for being on. Is that sense of a try doesn't mean just join and let's see what happens. Because, I know what's going to happen. The sun's going to set, the sun's going to rise, sun's going to set, sun's going to rise, and you're not going to sell anything, because that's what happens when you see what happens. But if you give it a try, booking 6 parties is going to get you what you want to know, which is an answer to whether or not you like it or not. Debbie, what were you saying?
I was going to say, so my last gal who signed up, who I've not heard from, and she just really kind of want to try it out, see if it was a fit for her.
Yeah.
So basically, I should have told her, well, if you really want this to see if it's a fit, book 6 parties. That's what I should have done.
Right.
And you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. Because I mean, how do you know if it's a fit unless you're doing it?
That's right.
How are you going to know if you like tennis unless you take 6 lessons? It's just, you can't know if you're going to like tennis just by watching the game from the bleachers.
Well, you watch it and you like it, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can play it.
Right.
Okay. So you like the jewelry, you're at the party and you love it. How are you going to know if you're going to really love it if you don't book those 6 parties to see if you can? I love that. Dang, I love that. That is awesome. Boom, boom, boom.
Boom.
Yeah.
And I think this is the key, is that we need to figure out what our posture really is. Is it try us on? Is it give it a try? Is it see if you like it? Is it book 6 parties? Like, what is it? It's try it on, see if you like it, and books by booking 6 parties.
Yep.
Or 5 parties or 4 parties. I don't care what the number is, but it's all of that combined with a set of expectations that there is a to-do list so that they can see if they like it. How are we going to know? How are they going to know? I think we're doing them a disservice by not pointing out to them that it's not about just joining and seeing what happens. It's about joining and booking 5 and 6 parties and then seeing what happens.
It's almost like they say, well, I want to try it on. I'm just going to try it. I'm going to give it a try.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So maybe you may want to look and say, well, I'm curious. How do you feel about that? I'm curious. What are you going to do to try that on? What are you going to do to see if it is a fit? I'm curious. I'm going to say, oh, I really want a new pair of shoes and maybe 3 pairs, but you're not going to walk into a shoe store and say, oh, I'm going to buy those 3. You're going to try them on to see if they're comfortable and if you like them, right?
Absolutely.
So that's the same way with this. If somebody goes, I just want to try it on, I'm curious. How are you trying it on? What are you thinking about trying this on? How are you going to know? And depending upon what they say, you say, well, I can help you out with that. Book 6 parties. So I
I
don't
agree
know.
with that.
Debbie,
I agree
Debbie,
with
I
that,
have to
Deb.
go. I just made you the co-host so that you guys can stay on and keep talking, okay? I need
Oh,
you to
okay.
help Dad with something.
All
Okay.
right.
Actually, I gotta go too. I wanna hop on the national opportunity